So we are a Toyota approved track software provider. We also do fleet management for certain locations. I don't know if you're familiar with like K&M tires.
Um, I'm not. Not.
They're
Yeah.
yeah, they're pretty much everywhere, but we manage their fleet for their, just tracking where they're at, where they're going, things like that.
Okay.
Um, I didn't know, so that's why I was asking like what particular we were looking for. Do you know if you have like a track fleet at your Toyota store?
Um, we do.
Like,
Um,
okay,
it's not very big, but we do.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm gonna walk through kind of the track side of the platform.
Okay.
Just kind of show you another Toyota store that's using us for their track fleet. And then we can also talk about the fleet management side aspect of Logitrac and how we can accommodate on that side as well.
Okay. So I might not have all the answers because the department managers do, but if you want to give me the whole overview, that would be great.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
kind of my plan. So with this side, I'll walk you through kind of like the tracking, where we're different from the other providers, talk about contract utilization and how our contract piece is very streamlined versus like some of the biggest differences in the contract realm, and then talk about like the setup internally of how we can really set the system up to best work around your guys' workflow. Not every workflow is the same, and a lot of the other providers out there, the way that they're set up is this is how you use it, this is the only way to use it, as where our kind of like the way that we like to set the account up is to kind of work around the way that you guys are set up already.
Okay.
There's you can turn off, turn on, really customize to best fit your guys' workflow.
Okay.
If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to stop me. I'm going to kind of jump in here now. This is our mapping screen. This is typically what you'll be greeted with when you come into Logitrac. Everything that you see on this map is live. We do have these little bubbles here. This is kind of a grouping. That way we avoid like overpopulating the screen with a whole bunch of locations. As you zoom in closer to these, they will expand in that region. But we like to keep it very simple, simplistic on the mapping. On the left-hand side is a list of the units that are in the fleet. And then, basic information, unit number, VIN, year, make, model, and then we got this engine icon here. The stop sign means the vehicle is currently off and there's no movement. The blue arrow indicates the vehicle's on and we're currently moving. And then there's a yellow triangle. I don't see any on this one right now, but it basically means the vehicle's on and idling, so no movement, which will be like a yellow like triangle with an exclamation point in the middle. I can click on any of these line items here, any of these units, and it's going to take me directly to that unit on the map. This one looks like it's at the dealership currently. We don't have a contract in place. Let me move to one that is actually in contract. So as soon as I click on that unit, I get this great pop-up window here. On the left-hand side, I get engine data, so I can see, how fast the customer is currently traveling, the current odometer, fuel level, and I can also see the contract data, so I can see who's in the contract, maybe an RO associated with that contract, and then when the contract started, when they're expected to return, things like that. We can make quick edits to the vehicle here. I can put in a hard hold status for any reason. Maybe this vehicle is being sold to sales. We can put it on a hard hold status and then apply needs maintenance, or if it's being sold to sales, we can apply that tag here so that anybody at the dealership knows that this vehicle is being sold to sales. As you can see, it's moving along the map here, so we're tracking it live. Also with this hard hold, once it's placed into a hard hold status, once it returns to the dealership, it will not be put back into the available status. This is to prevent vehicles that need maintenance or being sold to sales from being put back out on another rental. We can make any vehicle notes, customer notes, or I can even direct message the customer from the screen, letting them know that their vehicle's ready, please return to the dealership, or I can even type them something custom like, hey, you left your sunglasses here, they'll be here for you when you return. We do have the ability to drill into the location of this vehicle. I can see that it's right here. I can also take this yellow guy and drop it onto the map here, and I can see the actual location for that vehicle. This is good for locating cars, whether it's needing to recoup a vehicle or, maybe just knowing where your cars are going. It's good for, we can get it pretty much down to the parking spot of where that car is located. So let me see if I can kind of get in here. Let me see if this is giving me a better option here. So I can really kind of show you where these cars are located. So I get it down to the parking spot.
Wow.
Definitely a good tool to have. You know, the dealership is responsible for these. These are assets that they are paying for monthly. So how we look at it is, you know, these are your items, these are your properties, so you should be able to know exactly where they're at all times.
Mm-hmm.
The other feature, these are things that you're not going to get with the other providers. They do, I know TSD has the aerial view, we have the street view, and then exact location where we do the street view is kind of unique to Logitrac. We also have the ability to do like a history trail. We keep 5 years worth of data in the system for things that may come out later, whether the customer traveled outside the area or they traveled long distance, or if there's more of like a criminal type case that you need some, you know, some information on, or if the car's in an accident. Each of these little arrows in the history trail provides a moment in time. So I can click on there and I can see exactly how fast this customer is traveling at this moment. This is great information to have. Insurance companies love it because we can just pass them this information. They can really use this to kind of help, you know, with their insurance claim, whether it's if it's an accident, then they can kind of utilize this information to really figure out what happened. This information has also been used for more serious things like criminal type cases, where we've been directly contacted by detective agencies, things like that, to kind of figure out what was going on with this vehicle and to see if they can use this data in their case. We also have the ability to play their route of travel. So really get a good idea as to, you know, where they were traveling, what they were up to, things like that.
Okay.
It's like insurance. You don't necessarily need it until you need it, but when you need it, it's there.
Yeah.
And then the other feature of the mapping screen that I definitely like to talk about is the the geofencing. So we provide 2 geofences to start. One goes up around the dealership. This is good for things like no contract departure. So if a vehicle leaves the lot not attached to a contract, we will basically set up a notification to let y'all know that there's a car out there without a contract. Whether an advisor assigns the wrong vehicle, an advisor takes the car for their lunch break, doesn't think anybody's going to notice, or a vehicle is stolen off the lot. These are all situations where you would want somebody at the dealership knowing that there's a car out there without a contract. Biggest reason is that if a contract's out there, if a car's out there without a contract, it voids the insurance, making the dealership 100% liable for whatever happens in that vehicle. So it's really important to let you guys know that there's a car out there. The 2 other features that I like to talk about with this specific geofence is low fuel on lot. So if a vehicle comes back from a rental and it has less than the desired fuel level, maybe you keep your vehicles at 100%, we will basically set up a notification to let your valet importers know that vehicle ABC needs to be fueled up, where it's located, and how many gallons need to be added back to that vehicle to get it back up to that threshold. Our system is automatically going to calculate what the customer owes for the fuel, and we'll charge them for that if you would like. But there's still this task of somebody needing to go fill it up, and that's where we can kind of automate that piece for you.
Okay.
And then the third with this mapping, or this specific geofence that I like to talk about, is automatic contract close. I consider this tool more of a fail-safe than anything. I wouldn't recommend it for your daily processes or daily, you know, workflow. This is more of the case of like, it's super busy on the service drive. Maybe somebody brings a vehicle back late at night and nobody's there to kind of check that vehicle back in. We can set up a timer within our system. As soon as the customer enters that geofence, we start that timer. And we typically like to have that timer set from anywhere from 2 to 24 hours after they, you know, once they enter that geofence, we start a timer, say it's 2 hours. At that 2-hour threshold, we will automatically close out the contract, assuming, hey, this car is being returned and we're just going to close it out for you. and we can actually charge the card on file for whatever they owe.
Okay.
The other geofence that we provide, and with Toyota, it's a little bit, I have some dealers that enforce it. Like this dealership has one, but it's a large geofence. They enforce kind of, all of California, a little bit of Nevada. And how this geofence works is this is something that the customers have to agree on in the contract. And how it works is customers driving down, say they're driving through Reno, they exit Reno and they drive past this geofence here. We're going to send you guys a text message letting you know that the customer has left the geofence right about here. But also at the same time, we're going to text the customer and let them know that we know that they have left the authorized travel area and they're not going to be charged 30 cents from here on out, or however much you guys want to charge at the dealership. Same with miles per day. So typically Toyotas have some kind of mileage limit. It really depends on the actual Toyota store. Usually it's about 200 or 300 miles per day, which is very gracious. But how it works, same idea. They've reached that threshold of mileage in, mileage in a day. And then we'll text them as well saying, hey, you've exceeded your daily mileage limit for the day. You're not going to be charged 30 cents from here on out. And then we calculate that at the time of closing out. And then you guys can assess whether you want to charge or not. Anything that I talk to you as far as charging your customer, you can either pre-cancel ahead of time for the customers that are coming from out of area, or you can cancel at the time you're closing out. I know customer satisfaction is super important. Maybe you guys use it just as an educational piece, like, hey, our insurance laws say that we have to keep these units within the state. If you choose to leave the state, we are going to start charging you penalties for leaving the state, things like that. So we can really enforce those things for you. But it's more of you have the flexibility and control to do what you want with the system and how you set it up.
Okay.
Any questions for me on the mapping?
Not so far. That looks great.
I don't know how much experience you have with the systems you're using now, but from what I've heard through dealers is that, our mapping is like next generation when it comes to being able to track and locate and just some of the things that we have the ability to enforce.
Yeah, it looks that way.
Excuse me. The next piece I'm going to kind of go over with you is the contract piece. So the great thing about our system is that we try to automate a lot of stuff. So do you know who your DMS is currently?
Dealertrac.
Perfect. So we are getting gaining the ability to kind of integrate with some of these the DMSs. So once we have the access, basically the appointments will kind of be automated. But for the most part, if your customers are coming in and they're going to need a rental, we can actually have your team send them a link ahead of time. So your customers are able to provide their information before they ever come to the dealership, which is a great feature. All you need is the customer's first name, last name, email address, or phone number. Typically when somebody's scheduling service, this is basic information that you already get. You send this link off to the customer, and then they're going to get an email that looks like this. Let me pull it up. So they're going to get an email that looks like this. Got your branding or your dealership name across the top. They click on this blue link here, and it's going to open up a window that looks like this. Your customers can fill this information out the day before they come in, a week out from their appointment. It provides a great customer experience because, y'all are great people at the dealership, but nobody wants to spend extra time providing all their information, people taking photocopies, all that stuff. So this is kind of a nice experience because the customers can just take pictures of their driver's license, insurance, and credit card, and our system is going to extract the information directly off the card. The other piece is giving your guys' customers the ability to pre-sign for their contract. Most people that come in for service know that they're going to need to sign for a rental contract and they're getting a track card, know that they're going to have to sign for something. Why not give them the ability to do that ahead of time? It's just kind of eliminating the workflow and the pieces that the dealership has to worry about when the customer gets there. Once you send that link off to the customer, what happens on your dashboard home here is it puts this line item in the system for that customer. And then these pieces over here, I'm a quote unquote an existing customer. So they already have my information, but this link that was sent out to me gives the customer or me the ability to update any information that's expired. And then what this tells us is that the customer has their information in the system, but they haven't pre-signed for their contract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to submit my information over. It's going to say, thanks for confirming your rental. And then now what we have here is that it's now showing that we're waiting for the customer to arrive. I've provided all my required information set out by the dealership, and then I've also pre-signed for my contract. So at this point, the only thing we're waiting for is the dealer or the customer to show up to the dealership. Customer shows up to the dealership, we click resume here. It's gonna bring up this first step. At this point, what I can do is I can actually require a pre-authorization. So this dealership does a deposit. They kind of run things a little bit differently. They do a lot of like retail rentals, but we can do like a pre-auth on the customer's card. So the great thing about that is it checks the validity, making sure that it's a valid card, making sure that there's funds available, things like that. And it can be as simple as $1. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. We just want to make sure that the card the customer's providing is valid. Anything up here, you can make a requirement for your contract process. And then we can also force your team to review the profile for the customer as well. Just making sure that the customer that provided the information is the same customer standing in front of you. I'm going to bypass this stuff because they want more information than I have on here. So at this point, I'm going to go to step 2. This is where you assign a vehicle. I really like this page, especially for dealers that are really worried about their utilization. And most dealerships are, especially Toyota. They want that utilization up. I can see how many days the vehicle's been sitting. So that gives me a good idea as to what vehicles I need to use more in my fleet to make sure I'm rotating that fleet efficiently. So I'm going to pick this one here. Well, let's see. This one's been sitting for about 6 days. I can click on this globe here, and it's going to tell me exactly where to find that vehicle at the dealership. So I'm going to select this car here. It's going to pull over live odometer, live fuel. If we wanted to select a trim package, whether you're doing a retail, we have a whole bunch of different ways that we can set it up. This one has a default of $150 for a daily rate for retail customers. But we can also do a rental, right? Or I'm sorry, we could do like a warranty type situation. Step 3 is where you do a vehicle inspection. Right now, the process for you is probably looks like a piece of paper where the advisors are circling damage on the car, on that paper, maybe making notes on there. The way that we add to protecting you guys at the dealership is taking pictures of the vehicle and attaching those to the contract. So it's that's a way more proof than you'll ever need. If there's a scratch on the front bumper and then the customer comes back and there's an even bigger scratch or a dent where that scratch was, you guys will have the proof to say, hey, you damaged this car even more. So.
Okay.
Step 4, customers already pre-signed, but if you wanted to, you could have review the terms and conditions with them at this point. This is what that lovely Sedgwick contract looks like. Remarks, this is all the different things as far as charging a customer, right? This dealership charges $10 per gallon to refuel the car. They also have that geofence on here as well. If the customer's done all the things that they needed to and pre-signed, we just click finish here. So if we're sending that link out to the customer, the only thing that your team is responsible for once the customer comes in is assigning a vehicle, do the walk around, and click finish. Customer gets a digital copy of everything sent to their email or to their cell phone, whichever way they want to have that communication sent to them. And this is what the contract looks like. Let me see if I can find one where they've actually attached photos. This dealership doesn't look like they attach the photos, but most dealerships do. It's all on how they want to set it up. Closing out's even easier. We just click on this red X here. It's going to bring up a window for us to review charges. So at this point, if this customer brings this vehicle back, I do have this warning up here basically telling me that I'm trying to close out a contract for a car that's not currently at the dealership. But it's automatically updated the odometer in and out, and then it's automatically showing us the fuel. So it left at 100%. If the customer is returning it right now, 41%, according to what's set up in their profile or their account, the customer would owe over $100 worth of fuel charges.
Okay.
All of this information we're going to pull directly from the engine. These happen automatically.
Oh wow.
These ones are ones that you guys can apply at the close of a contract. So if it needs a cleaning fee, you can do that as well. You can kind of toggle this over. We pre-fill an amount here that is set out by you guys. As far as canceling, so maybe you're going to eat this for this customer, right? We do have an admin password. This is to avoid your advisors from canceling charges for customers because they don't want to deal with it, which happens a lot. So they would need some kind of, supervisor approval here. At this point, we can do another vehicle inspection upon return. We can also assign alerts. So maybe this customer is a bad customer. We want to put them on the do not loan again or do not loan list. That can be done at this point. At this point, what happens is anytime they come back, we'll get this pop-up window that says do not loan, and a manager will have to override that. We can hit close and charge here, and it's going to hit the card on file for anything that the customer owes, whether it's fuel, out of area mileage, excessive daily mileage. Also handle the tolls. I don't know if you guys even have tolls in your area. I'm assuming you don't. Any questions for me on the contract piece?
Not so far. Yeah, that seems pretty straightforward and smooth.
Yeah. And then inside of here, we have tons of reports that we can set up for you. We can actually schedule any of these reports here. So if you want a batch report, this will basically tell you what you're actually pulling in versus what you've canceled, things like that. We can actually schedule this to be in your inbox on what day and time you ask for it. So it actually shows you what you're actually generating in our system. But like I said, any of these reports can be something that we schedule for you as well. We have a ton of alerts. You're not going to get as many alerts with the other providers. No contract departure is pretty important. We have some collision warnings, odometer-based alerts to make sure you're getting your vehicles in for their maintenance on time, getting those incentives from Toyota. And then inside of here is where we really set the account up to your guys' needs. And then you guys can hit the ground running as soon as you guys onboard with Logitrac. So this is where we set up the charging and pricing. They charge $10 per gallon. The cool thing about our systems is that you can put in like a max credit threshold or almost like a buffer, right? So they're charging $10 a gallon, but say it's a good customer, they come back and 1 gallon of gas is missing. We can actually put a $10 buffer in here. So anything that's $10 and below will just get credited or kind of like won't be charged to the customer. Anything up over that will automatically be enforced with the customer. And then these are the valuation fees. So these are all the ones that you can add to the contract when you're closing out or add to the invoice when you're closing out. And these are all customizable. So it doesn't necessarily need to be called pet fee. You can edit the verbiage here, whatever you want to call it. It's just the ones that we have in here for you now. Internal alerts, these are all the things that we can make you aware of internally. So the dealership would get these kind of alerts of like somebody leaving the authorized travel area or going over their daily mileage limit. This is where we would set up that automatic contract close for you guys. And then fields and sources, these are all the things that you can make a requirement for your contract process. These are the ones that Toyota requires. But then anything outside of there, you guys can also make a requirement. So if you want to require card information, if you want to require pre-auth, if you want a front image picture of the driver's license or an image of the insurance card so you can just verify. There's a lot of good things that you can add to your requirements for the contract process.
Okay.
Remarks in geofence. These remarks are all approved from Terragraphic. These are Terragraphic approved remarks. Specifically with Toyota, all their remarks go through Terragraphic. So we've just applied all of them here, and then you guys can decide which ones you want to apply to your contract. We do have a full rental setting, so if you're looking to do some retail rental, we can accommodate you there as well. I wanted to show you some examples of the invoices. I forgot to do that when I closed it out. So this is an example of a toll invoice that was generated. This customer went through 2 tolls. It says the date and time that went through the tolls and then how much the toll cost.
Oh.
And then this is go ahead.
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. And then this is like an invoice that was generated for fuel. So customer left at 100%, came back at 57%. So they would have owed $73.10 in fuel, which they were charged for. And this is more like this customer had the vehicle for 25 days and they were charged $48 a day for this vehicle. What questions do you have for me?
You mentioned something about fleet too at the beginning of the call. I was just wondering um, uh, what information you had on that.
Yeah, let me get into that now so I can show you. Do you guys have snow where you're at? Does it snow where you're at?
We do. We've kind of had a light winter this winter, but we do.
You in here? So this is the K&M tires I was telling you about. This is their fleet account. Like I told you, they're kind of all over the place.
Uh-huh.
But each one of these people that we see listed on this is their vehicle. This is their actual like vehicle that they're assigned. Let's see here. So I can click on any of these people here. This vehicle is not in use today. Let me see about this one. So I can see, they have a geofence for each person has a home geofence. So these specific people, they take their work vehicles home. So this is based off of when they start their vehicle and exit that home geofence. So it looks like he started pretty early in the morning. And we kind of just track. There's a lot of things that we can run. Activity report, alert report, all kinds of reports that we can run for the fleet.
Okay.
You can create geofences or routing if you want to choose a location. If they have a specific place that they need to go, we can kind of route them out that way as well. And we do have the history trail in here as well. You can really see like what they were doing in today. Like I said, these are their home geofences. And then this specific place, they have certain locations that they drop off to regularly. So we also have geofences established for those too, so that they know when they get to the specific places, kind of their time frame there as well.
Okay.
And we can also alert you, like if they're traveling, if they use, not that I'm assuming that these cars are at the dealership and the people don't take them home. Is that pretty accurate, or do they take these parts vehicles home?
Um, we've had uh, track units rented out to customers that sometimes um, take them home for however time their services needed to be repaired. We've tried to do retail rental in the past as well. Um, so we've had some variations of usage of track units.
Okay. Specifically for the parts cars, the parts vehicles, do you know if these cars are, they stay at the dealership and then, when the, driver or whoever is the parts person needs to use that vehicle, they come to the dealership and then they grab it from the dealership, or do they take that car home?
Um, so if it's a customer that is using it because their vehicle's in service, then
Mm-hmm.
they can take them home. But we have vehicles that also stay here at the dealership.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's like a dealership unit, that's used for parts, right? Delivery parts or
Mm-hmm.
doing service at somebody's house, and that the person that has that vehicle,
Yeah,
right? If it's a,
they'll bring it back here.
right. Okay. So
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, we can kind of monitor unauthorized usage. So for KM Tires, they have their workers take their cars home, and so one thing that they don't want to have happen is somebody using that vehicle to go out to dinner or to, go to the bar that night. So we kind of monitor that for them as well.
Okay.
What kind of features are you looking for as far as, I guess, for your kind of situation? Is it something like this where it's just tracking where they're going, how they're utilizing the car, things like that?
I'd probably have to defer that question to our parts manager. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but this is helpful. This is a pretty robust system that has a lot of features, and yeah, this is very advanced as far as tracking vehicles. Um, that's incredible. You can get it down to the parking lot.
Yeah. Well, and the other feature, ours is every 15-second updates. With the other providers, you're looking at ignition on, ignition off. So when the vehicle's turned on, that first cycle, when it's turned on, that's where you get a location update. And then you're not getting another location update until that car is turned off. So, it could be one location, you get that first, ignition cycle, and then, they could drive for 3 hours. You're not going to get another location until that car's turned off. So, just good tools to have in here for sure. And we do accommodate both, so we can, set up a fleet account for the parts cars. So you guys are kind of keeping track of them and looking at their utilization and making sure that they're being utilized appropriately, as well as the track side.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of automate a lot of that and provide you some great insight as to how your track fleet's being ran. Um, we've had a lot of dealerships that are using our platform. Not that you're in that boat, but I've had a dealership it's actually a Virginia dealership that onboarded with us. They almost had about 200 units in their fleet for their loaners or rental side. And after utilizing our system for about 6 months, they were able to reduce their fleet size down because of all the things that we're able to enforce. They're getting their vehicles back quicker, they're turning them quicker. And based off of that, they were actually able to reduce their fleet by a significant amount. I think they are actually under 100 now. So going from almost 200 units in their loaner fleet down to less than 100.
Wow. I guess my other question would be, what is the pricing structure for this?
So it's $20 per unit per month,
Oh, okay.
and that includes. And then depending on like fleet size and stuff like that, that also gets put into consideration about, what price point we're at with that. You know what the track fleet size is? Probably not.
Not off the top of my head, no. Okay. Well, I can't think of any other questions at this time. This is, like I said, this is definitely very helpful information, and I'll be reviewing it with my parts manager, and our fleet manager as well. Was there anything else that you think would be helpful for me to be able to share with them, or do we pretty much cover everything?
I think I covered mostly everything. What would be my next steps here? Did you want to try to get another meeting scheduled with parts and your track fleet manager or your service director, whoever needs to be in that meeting?
How
Would
about how
wouldn't mind.
about maybe give me a follow up in about a week? That'll give me time to visit with the both of them. I'm gonna have to catch them on their schedules and review this information with them. And if you could give me like a follow up in a week, I can I can see if there's interest for there or interest for a demo for them individually. Um, I
Yep.
think that'd probably be a good next step.
Perfect. Well, I will plan to follow up with you in a week. I will send you an email with just a brief recap, kind of going over the track side and then as well as the fleet side as well.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Iggy. It's much appreciated.
Yeah,
And
thank
like
you
I
for
said,
taking the time.
absolutely, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And I will plan to follow up with you in about a week.
Sounds good. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.